Hello everyone, I'm Lethe, and this is my River Lethe series. Our inaugural episode today will feature Avernum Escape from the Pit. So, the concept behind this series is that we will play older or forgotten video games, mostly RPGs. The name therefore comes from the fact that in Greek mythology, the river Lethe was the river of forgetfulness. So as we raft down this river, we will encounter games that may have not gotten enough attention in their own time, or have been around a long time and aren't thought about as much anymore. You might think, why are we playing Avernum here when it says copyright 2011-2012? That's not that old, even for a video game. Well, Avernum is a reskin or a rejuvenation of an older game series known as Exile. I remember playing Spiderweb Software's Exile series in probably the late mid-90s when it came on these shareware CDs that you get in the mail. The Exile game series is sort of an overhead 2D role-playing game in which you made your whole party at the beginning and then went through this world filled with strange monsters, macabre humor, and all sorts of interesting and sometimes just plain silly interactions. So I have fond memories of this game series, and I'm interested to play this reskin, this rejuvenation. I've played the Avernum versions of the later Avernum games, after Avernum 3. All of them are now rejuvenated, I believe. You can get all of them on Steam except for the third one. I don't know if that means the third one hasn't been turned into an Avernum game, if they're going to do it, or if it's simply not available on Steam for the time being. Whatever the case, we're going to play through this one, Avernum Escape from the Pit, starting today. So, let's go ahead and get into a new game. So, as you can see, you can create a group at the beginning, a group of 4. In the older Exile game series, I think I remember it being 6, but 4 is a bit more streamlined, and a lot of stuff has been streamlined from not just the Exile versions of the game, but some of the other Avernum versions as well. The skill system involves fewer points, so it's a bit less granular than it used to be. And what else is streamlined? The skill system, not just your ability points, but your mage spells and your battle abilities have also been streamlined a good bit. Alright, now since I haven't played this version of the game, whereas I would usually go with custom characters, I'm going to go with the default type of character classes. But I'm not going to go with this default roster. I'm going to make some of my own stuff. Okay, let's look at the various character types. We have a soldier, and you can see that they are proficient with most types of weapons. There are really 4 types of weapons in the game. There are melee weapons, pole weapons, bows, and thrown weapons. So you can see the soldier is skilled with 2 out of 3 of them. Now, I don't usually like this sort of spreading of weapon skills across different categories, so I'm probably going to go with the Berserker for my leader, for my main warrior character. You can see that their skill is focused mostly in melee weapons, with a little bit in thrown weapons. So I think I prefer that. Now, part of the reason for deciding on which person has which skills is that I vaguely remember some of the really good equipment in this game. I know that there are some really good swords, and I know that there are some really good pole weapons, and I want to make one character centered around being really good with those really good weapons. Alright, so we have a character type. He's a Berserker here. I don't think I like this portrait, so you can change the character type clicking here, change the name here, and then by clicking on the portrait, you can change the little avatar. What do I want here? This looks vaguely berserkery, but also like it would be terrible to actually fight in. Also terrible to fight in. Got a mullet going there and a headband. This guy is definitely from the 80s. No, 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 no. No, that's a ninja. This guy could work as a berserker. I'm not sure I quite like it. No. Alright, we're back to the beginning. I think I'm going to go with this guy here. He looks like he's a good party leader. He looks confident, strong, and He's actually wearing sensible clothing for the cold underground. Let's change this name though, I don't like it. Let's go for... My names are going to be pretty normal. Sometimes people name their characters bizarre things like Splat and Crunch in these playthroughs. I'm going to go with something a bit more standard. Okay, so this needs to be my roguelike character. For that, Archer is not really a choice. Archer is just a ranged fighter. So we'll be looking at either the rogue or the rebel. So the rebel, as it says in the description, is sort of a jack of all trades. I just don't like that kind of spread, as I've already said before, in terms of skills. So I'm going to go with the rogue, who is a bit more focused in tool use. They're focused in melee weapons as well. There's a little bit of ranged. Okay, so for a rogue picture, no. This is a good one, but more archery than I'm... So this could be a rogue picture or a mage picture. I might actually go with that ninja picture that I saw earlier. Yeah, this guy, he's going to be the rogue. Let's change the name here. Alright, so now we need to figure out what we're going to do with the last two slots. We can either make one of each a different type of magic user, as there is divine magic and arcane magic, or we can try and focus all the magic skills into one character and then get maybe a sort of off warrior, sort of pseudo warrior type character. If we want to put all of our magic into a single character, then we need to go with the Hedge Wizard. You can see that the Hedge Wizard has both mage and priest spell skills, as well as some spellcraft and arcane lore. Putting all of your magic abilities into a single character is kind of an advanced strategy. It can go wrong if that character gets incapacitated in some way, because that person will have most of your healing. Another thing that we could do is not totally isolate our magic using it into one character. We could have a Hedge Wizard and then also a Shaman, because the Shaman has some priest spells, also has some pole weapon ability, whereas the priest up here has very little in the way of combat abilities. So I think I will probably do that. I will have a Shaman, and my other character is going to be... no, I will just go with the straight up Sorcerer for this one. Okay, so for our Shaman, what character do we want? Mycroft there is a shout out to the Sherlock Holmes saga. Mycroft is Sherlock's brother, as I'm sure many of you know. What's a shaman-y looking picture? No. Again, this could work. I guess the shaman, well, this shaman is sort of combat oriented, so again, that kind of armorlessness is unhelpful. I'll go with this. The shaman doesn't have to look wild and uncivilized. So here will be our shaman. I'm going to change her name to... what's a good name for a shaman? And now this will be our sorcerer. I'll change her name as well. How about... So this is a little bit repetitive. Astrid and Estrella, I think, mean essentially the same thing in different languages. They are star, but whatever. And on second thought, I want to change this to that. Yeah, I like that better. So we have Darren, Corbin, Estrella, and Astrid. This is our crew, and they are going to be exploring Avernum with us. Let's get right into it. Now, as I said, because I haven't played this particular version of the game, I'm going to go with a normal difficulty so that we can get through it and not get stuck on too many things. There will be a lot of dialogue pains in this game because there's no voice acting really, so I will read those out, at least the important ones. If you get tired of listening to me do that, well then I will stop. But for the time being, you're going to listen to me read this introduction. You are never going to see sunlight again. You will never breathe fresh air, or be warm and dry, or feel safe. This is your punishment. For your crimes, you are being thrown into a magical portal and banished to Avernum, never to return. Your crime? Nothing as serious as you might think. Not murder, nor arson, nor assault. No. Your crime was against the Empire, ruled by the cruel Emperor Hawthorne. You spoke out against an unjust law, or you angered some minor official, or you may have just been a misfit. The Empire controls the entire surface of the world. All 4 continents have completely submitted to its rule. Not fitting in is a crime in the Empire. So, you are being exiled. You are being sent down to Avernum. Avernum is a series of caverns far below the surface of the world. It is a dark, subterranean prison, a place where exiles like you spend the rest of their lives far from the light. What is it like there? Nobody on the surface knows. All they know is that it is dark and deadly. It is spoken of only in whispers, and only with fear. Some believe that there is no air, warmth, or food, and death comes with merciful speed. Others believe that there is enough sustenance to enable Avernites to endure a miserable worm-like existence. Until, of course, the monsters get you. And a few believe that Avernum is a paradise, a hard land of freedom, where one can at last be out from under the Empire's iron rule. People mad enough to believe Avernum is a paradise soon end up there themselves. They don't know really what it's like. Nobody on the surface does. But soon you will. There is no appeal to the judge's decision. Early one morning, in a stone dome far out in the wastes, you are dragged in chains to the shimmering portal. You breathe clean, fresh air one last time. Your shackles are removed. They throw you in. And here we are. You can see, the graphics are not splendid, but they're not bad. We have moving water. We have water dripping from above in some motes of dust or something. Here is our band of adventurers. There are 4 of them. You can see there's some mushrooms, some stalagmites, some moss and stuff, all of the things that you need in a bleak, terrible underground environment. As we walk along, we will trigger dialogue panes and events, and I will read those out when they're important or until you ask me to stop. So let's get going. Slowly, your eyes adjust to the dim light. Happily, there is light. The ceiling of the cavern is covered with scattered patches of fungus that glows with a faint green luminescence. But you are alone. It is cold, damp, and deathly still. All you hear are the echoes of dripping water in the shadows. The loneliness makes the feeling of claustrophobia more powerful. For a moment, you can sense the countless tons of stone above you, ready to, at any moment, crush you into nothingness. You concentrate and overcome the growing terror. There must be someone down here. You'll just have to explore and find them. We know that there are other people down here because the Empire throws you down here if you as much as jaywalk, apparently. Okay, you can see you walk around, your little legs tramp, tramp, tramp. This is how you move. You can move with the arrow keys, I believe. Yeah. So you can see the terrain is 3-dimensional. I can't go up here because it's raised. We'll explore the UI a little bit more in the options in a second. Spiderwebs are always ominous to see. I remember in the old Exile games that that sound of walking was a bit more pronounced, not like soft footsteps, but like you were sort of tap dancing. You'd run across the countryside. But they've toned it down a little bit. All right, let's move towards these bones. That's never a bad thing. Much to your great relief, you finally find signs of human occupation. The gallery to the west is blocked by a wall, rough stone blocks held together by crumbling mortar. It looks like it has been here for years, abandoned and decaying, but it is something. Less reassuring is the pile of bones between you and the wall. They look like they came from a small humanoid, perhaps a goblin. They too have been here for a while. On the floor near them, someone discarded a crude cloak, scraps of leather roughly stitched together. On the surface, you would have ignored this disgusting thing. Down here, with the cold seeping into your bones, you decide that you would be better off wearing it. So you'll note that there's a record button here. You can click on that if you really like a particular encounter dialogue that you've seen, and it will put it in, like, copy paste it somewhere so that you can go back and look at it again at your leisure. So now let's get into the UI. So it's telling us to stand near the cloak by the bones and press this button, or press G. G for get. I'm gonna get it. All right, so you can see when you pick stuff up, there's what's on the ground, and then there's your pack. Your pack has finite space. Things on the ground are lettered, and you can just press the button of the letter beside it to pick it up. There we go. All right, so we've picked it up. So over here is your roster of characters. You can reorder them at some point if you want to, if you don't want a particular person up front. Down here we have this particular character's attacks and stuff like that and abilities. So melee, ranged, mage spells, priest spells, battle disciplines. Battle disciplines, for any of you who played Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, the Book of Nine Swords, and just very generally the latter editions of D&D, these are like what the warrior type classes get per day, per battle, per round abilities, so that they're not just working with weapon attacks and skills or feats. Here's our inventory, here's the journal and quest log, here's the button to get in and out of combat. These are 4 quick spell slots, 4 quick item slots. Here's how we can edit our party, their order, and things like that. Here is the map, which is very nicely drawn. You can see that we are here, the crossed halberds, and that there is a great deal to explore. Lots of cities and locations, so there's quite a lot to do. This game takes quite a lot of time to get through. I will record all of what I do in this playthrough. I will not necessarily publish it all because some of it might be a bit boring. There might be some editing going on if there's long stretches of walking and where nothing happens. And in general, if you want to only see particular types of encounters, big fights or whatever, we can also edit it in that way. All right, so you can see here's a list of what's happening. So it says, oh, you can't move because something's in the way. That's what it was telling me up here. Here's the mini-map, which is very helpful. There's a lot of exploring to do, and there are secret areas to find, secret doors to go through, and sometimes you can tell where those are by looking at the mini-map. If there's a large area that looks like it probably should be occupied by something, you'll get a sense for it after a time. Okay, so we've got the cloak. I believe that we need to put it on, so let's click the inventory button. We're going to put it on our fearless leader here. So you can see our inventory slots: ranged weapon, armor, shield, glove, helm, boots, pants, belt, ring, melee weapon, cloak, and then quick use items down here. We have already a potion, and this is the little use button, this sun emblem. Okay, we've put the cloak on. Let's now go up to this door. The cloak is crude and dirty, but it is warm. You suspect that everything in the underworld is going to be crude and dirty, so you'd better start getting used to it. And that's the kind of sort of tongue-in-cheek, macabre humor that I'm talking about that characterizes most of the descriptions and dialogue in this game. All right, so let's click on the door, we open it. You can see that there is a particular way in which you can see through doors, so you have to be wary. Enemies can hide in spaces like this, so if you suspect that there will be enemies on the other side of the door, it would be best to enter combat and then move out in that way. It's sort of a way to avoid getting surprised. On this side of the door, at last, you can hear people. You smell fresh smoke and hear the muttering of speech. You're too far away to make out what they're saying, but they are to the west. Keep moving west. And it's telling you about the settings window and how you can switch back to the style of movement in the previous Avernum games. So the way that they switched over the Exile series to the Avernum series, they didn't start with the first game. They started by making games which were new. They weren't reskinning. So I think the quote-unquote Exile 4 through 6 are actually only in Avernum versions. There was never an Exile version of that game. And so then they did those 3, and then they went back and started doing the older versions, rejuvenating them, reskinning them. So that may be why there is not yet an Avernum 3, which there was an Exile 3, and my favorite one, the first one that I played. Hopefully they will get around to it, because that one is really good. So the options menu, this is what they're talking about. You can change the difficulty, you can change the walking animation, that's what that dialogue was about, scrolling speed, so on and so forth. We're going to leave everything as it is and explore. Here's some garbage on the ground. Is there anything to get here? Nope. And there are the things that we heard, so let's go towards them. There are 3 people ahead, crouched around a dim, smoking fire of burning fungus. I bet that smells good. They are rolling dice, gambling over a handful of copper coins and leather garments they scavenged in these caves. Their sharp ears detect you. They leap to their feet and spin to face you, drawing their blades. They are Nephilim. Scrawny and hungry specimens, but dangerous nonetheless. Nephilim are a proud, tribal race that once filled the wild plains of the surface. Then the Empire began to remove them, sending the few that surrendered into Avernum, and killing the rest. This has left them with a vicious hatred of humanity. Even though you share a common enemy, they are still determined to take their revenge upon you. So we're about to see our first combat here. I'm going to end the episode before our first combat, and then we'll pick right up where we left off. So I hope that you liked this. If you did, please press that like button, press that subscribe button so that I can know to bring you more of this type of content. And next time, we'll continue our exploration of this dark underground world. And until next time, I don't care what you do.